time to get geeked up.
Wow, closer look, Andre Davi is glad to hear that his voice isn't hoarse after all this passionate yelling. In this time of gloom and doom, the goddamn Geeked Up podcast is doing a goddamn intense election special. It's always good to have the angelic voice of old Andre Davi.
Well, Andre Davi, the voice of reason in this country.
Kind of remind us that we're all here. We're all the same.
I mean, Kamala Harris is kind of doing the Andre Davi look, almost. Am I wrong with that? The long hair? Yeah.
She's bust out all her other scopes. I mean, seriously, in this time of fucking COVID, don't we have to bust out all of our other scopes? See what's,
yeah, seriously. Definitely take a closer look at your medical history at a time like this.
But look, like I'm saying is that, like, obviously we're doing a whole election special about it. It's our goddamn second one. Fuck, man, if Trump didn't get elected, here's a great point. If Trump didn't get elected 4 years ago, do you think we would have had one, let alone two election specials on the Geeked Up podcast? If Hillary got elected 4 years ago, it would have been like, hey, well, what happened? And now let's talk about the new Avengers.
We would have made a
coming
hilarious fat ankles joke before getting into Avenger news.
We never would have had a goddamn Secret Agent Ronnie. But these are the goddamn times we're living in. But the things we're doing now is kind of just focusing on...
And if this time it was Hillary as the incumbent versus like a new Trump, who knows? Me and you might have done the podcast that me and Ross did 4 years ago, where we endorsed him. And then took it down after he won.
Check out a UTI podcast episode. But, dude, honestly, in this time of doom and gloom, and even in celebratory times, like we've been talking about this whole episode, there's still just like so much to deal with. This is kind of taking a closer look at some of the stuff that's been making me and Liam, or Liam and I don't know, laugh and kind of all this. And if you've been listening to us while we report on like all of our Corona news, we've talked about a lot of the cool things we've been doing on Zoom, and not only ourselves, but like Josh Gad doing his whole reunion shows, and Krasinski doing his good news thing. That's more Corona stuff. It'll kind of bring me to this, though. The South Park, and we barely touched about it in the Geeked Up podcast, but South Park did do their Corona special, but which had so much stuff because much like the goddamn coronavirus, it's become political and right or left. So obviously South Park touched on the
nice.
The politicalness of the corona. And
let me guess, Cartman was an anti-masker.
Well, dude, I know you haven't watched South Park for a lot of seasons. But instead of them obviously just like doing a Trump illustration and like making fun of Trump, you know that they've turned Mr. Garrison has turned himself into Trump. It's Mr. Garrison is Trump in the South Park universe.
But does he play Mr. Garrison or he plays Trump?
He's dyed himself orange and he has like the blonde hair. He's just in that universe. He is still Mr. Garrison, but he's Trump. He's doing all the Trump things.
Okay,
he looks like Trump. And he's going against Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden, but he's still just like, oh, Jesus Christ, I'm fucking Mr. Garrison. I'm president now. I didn't want to be here.
Okay, so
that's
interesting.
It's this wild thing they've like kind of done.
Mind fuck of a molding of a mashup of characters.
In the South Park universe, Trump is president, which she is, but it's Mr. Garrison, and his vice president is Caitlyn Jenner.
Nice. I love where they're going there.
And then in terms of Jenner drive a car, he or she runs over somebody because right before he got his sex change, he like crashed into somebody and killed him via like a vehicle manslaughter. So
is that a real story or?
That's a real story.
Oh,
like right before Bruce Jenner turned to Caitlyn Jenner, he got like a fender bender and like the person died. But every time they show Caitlyn,
so I guess
Jenner
men can't drive.
Ooh, no, women can't drive. It was during the transition.
Oh, I see.
But every time they show Caitlyn drive in South Park, she runs over somebody.
Okay, I see.
Even to this day.
Every time they're showing the vice president drive for some reason. But
even in the COVID special.
In terms of the COVID special, though, so what did they do for Corona, though? What were like did Kenny die?
Like,
what was did they take on? Were there Karens? Give me the...
A lot of it was Cartman not wanting to go back to school, but he's been loving quarantine. I've been loving quarantine. Okay, school and Zoom. And he had this whole Zoom like thing where like a picture of him like paying attention.
All right, nice. He had hacked Zoom.
It was mostly jokes like that, but there was still a lot of like the debates and elections.
Must watch or what? Was it a hilarious?
For them putting it together for just this, and But I don't know. It was kind of a disappointment, but it was also kind of an answer to them just like responding like every meme being like, "Can't wait to see what South Park does with 2020."
Have they not had? They haven't done any episodes since Corona has started.
No,
Corona?
they just put out that one special. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Do they just postpone their season, or like they still actively?
I think a lot of it was
like South Park is
but
still an
also,
active
like,
show for Comedy Central, right?
Absolutely.
Okay,
absolutely. I
Yeah,
think
I'm
it's
out
the
of the
most
South Park
successful show.
loop a little bit here, but
But like in the world of Comedy Central, like South Park could do no wrong.
interesting.
Honestly, even when South Park started, not to go into a South Park deep dive, but we've talked about this, I mean, probably a lot on this podcast, but when South Park first started, Comedy Central was just like old David Spade stand-ups and
Yeah,
like
that's true,
reruns of
definitely.
Sports Night and
They really did
a
put
lot
them
of
on
old
the
SNL
map for sure.
episodes.
And honestly, for a show that's this long, fucking 30 years later or whatever it is, that show came out hot. Like, for a small network, was fucking like a pop culture phenomenon, and now
Honestly,
fucking
you're right.
20 years later or whatever it is,
It
it's
was
still
like
just as relevant.
The Simpsons on steroids, and it was like, oh well. And it's funny to see like all the shows that have kind of like tried to copy South Park's thing of just like being offensive for the sake of being offensive, and it's like no, it's not what they were doing. They always had like a smart message behind
Yeah,
it.
for sure.
And it was originally about like the censorship on like the Simpsons, but I digress, But like that's kind of the stuff that's been making me laugh,
For sure. I'd say another kind of one similar to that, and it's genius, but also its relevancy and just coming out off the presses. But how about Borat? We've kind of got into that one.
Dude,
We talked a little bit about it, I think, on one of these shows, but obviously the huge political implications.
We actually talked about it on the episode I was on the Big LW podcast.
Okay, that's right. Yes, on the Jamming
And
World.
we-
All right, nice.
We were talking about, I believe, if I'm not mistaken,
I think-
some of our favorite Halloween songs.
No, yeah, we're doing our
If I remember.
Halloween costumes or music
It wasn't
costumes.
the Geeked Up podcast, so I was really tuned out. All right, it was.
But I had to get your Borat take, I guess. But that was definitely first of all fucking amazingly funny, no doubt about it. But
Dude, shockingly, for us living in a time where like finally a Dumb and Dumber sequel came out, and it was like, oh, it doesn't hold up anymore. Like it's lost that. You know what I'm kind of meaning?
For sure.
Like it's lost that like pop or like what it was, the surprise of it, or like.
Yeah,
for, like,
no
a
doubt.
Borat movie to really not be advertised at all, because we did talk about the Wuhan redneck singing and dancing.
But that was very covertly at the time. At the
we
time, we
didn't
didn't even
know.
know. Yeah.
It was just a Sacha Baron Cohen.
No, I feel like the time helped because, like, when Borat was so hot, it was one of those things you can't realistically pull off the gag in fucking 2010 because Borat was such a fucking big thing. Now, 10 years later, whatever it is, after that, it's just... Yeah, exactly. Like, dude, there were people that literally spoke exclusively, like, in Borat voice. Fucking, but now it feels like like you could almost get away with doing the impression again because people might have forgot. The whole daughter thing was like a real logical thing to tie it in and make it work.
Dude, amazing.
Still feel like there's definitely. I mean, the Giuliani thing really stole the headlines. Although just right off the bat with
Let's talk about
Giuliani.
that,
Okay, we'll
because
talk about
that
Giuliani
was-
first. Although
was the
burying
big
the lead
headline
with
from it.
Giuliani is all I can say. But.
I agree with you, because you and I talked about it. I think it was maybe even off mic about just like how excited we were to watch this. I think maybe on the podcast I talked about how like Sacha Baron Cohen claimed that he was going to bury some political
for sure.
person's career, and then like leading up to it, it really looked like the articles came out and reviewers, again, the fucking goddamn movie reviewers, don't know what the fuck they're talking
I
about.
know.
But they were just, listen to Netflix and chat if you want to know more. But really, they were just like, oh, Giuliani was so seduced by a 15-year-old girl. What a crazy story. I've seen it. There's no coming out of this. And you and I objectively watching this movie, excuse me, and wanting to see Giuliani like go down in flames, nothing like that happened at all. It was a
for sure, it's
sexually compromising situation, but they never led on that the reporter was 15.
No, for sure.
You know what I mean?
And the whole point of the reporter's character is she's playing a girl that's like trying her best to win him over by throwing herself at him sexually. And it's just like it's embarrassing for any man to be shown under the spell of a beautiful woman. That's like an embarrassing thing, and it makes any man look. I don't care if you're fucking John Wayne. If you're showing John Wayne trying to get pussy, it makes him look like a fucking asshole. You know what I mean? So it's just it's definitely puts him in an unflattering sputtering light. I do think that
right, dude.
What's
That's
that?
like such a good thing. Like you put the coolest guy in the world, and you show them getting
Yeah, you show them like trying to flirt with the girl. They look like a loser. Like, I'm sorry. It's yeah, exactly. Fucking yeah. I mean, do I think he was trying to rub his dick so it would get hard easier when they had sex, which he thought was definitely about to happen? Yes, I do think that's why. I don't think he was tucking in his shirt.
I don't think that, dude. I really do think he was like taking his mic pack off.
Okay, yeah.
I think to me that's like kind of like obviously.
I think that he thought he was about to get some, so he was kind of just rubbing it a little bit, so it was active. Like when they did get back to conversation, drink a little more whiskey, you know what I mean? But he's like fucking 70. He's got to like warm his, got to fucking.
But dude, Giuliani, fucking stupid Giuliani, has been in enough interviews and press conferences where he knows. I guarantee that like I'll even say like Megyn Kelly of Fox News definitely has never followed like Trump or Giuliani in and like helped him take his mic off and been like, oh, lay down in the bed. Like,
I don't know. I felt like he probably had fucked some little conservative reporter in a similar fashion, to be honest.
Sure. To me, I think it would have been better if they would have like, because I definitely get it. Like during that scene, Sacha Baron Cohen does come in. And,
that's
like,
the craziest
he's
part.
The camera guy. That's not even the craziest part, because here's my hot take on it: is that like when they go down the hallway and they start like doing their lines, he's like, "Man, you're dead. I have to do this. You'll die." That's obviously filmed later. Like that wasn't filmed in his hotel room. They did that in another hotel room.
Okay, I see.
The crazy part was just him coming in disguise and be like, "Oh, we got him." I don't think any of the.
What, it'd be like a lingerie thing, or as the cameraman?
Oh, no, I mean, as a cameraman. I'm sure as a cameraman, he probably came in and, like, did a voice. I guarantee he didn't even do Borat voice. I guarantee he was just like, we have to fix your mic. I guarantee all that was post-edit of him being like, don't do this. I guarantee that's all bullshit, dude. Like,
because that was the point where it's like, Julian, okay, I see, that's a good call. Because, like, there's definitely, and there is a lot of, like, there's confirmed, you know, there is a lot of like magic of editing and movie making that took place in this whole thing. You know what I mean? So you don't know exactly what to believe in terms of, you know, the.
Well, the way it's made you to believe that he came in there and was like, "Don't do this," and she's like, "Go away, camera guy! I'm doing this." And Giuliani's like, which obviously makes him look an idiot. And again, I'm not like,
for sure.
No,
he looks terrible. Honestly, I've literally spent the last. I fucking grew up in the suburbs of New York City. I was 18 years old after 2011, and I've spent the last 20 years fucking arguing with people about what a douche Giuliani is in New York for 20 years after 9/11, and even I'm giving him a pass. Okay, I've had more Giuliani's a douche arguments than anybody on the planet. And even I'm gonna be like, dude, fucking, you can get me fucking looking twice as bad with fucking any chick that came to the bar that I worked at. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna fucking, I'm not gonna jump on the fucking hang him for this. I'm gonna fucking hang him for all of the. He left his wife to fucking. He kicked his wife out of the fucking Gracie mansion to fucking move in with his side piece. Like he's
dude. He announced that he was getting a divorce from his wife to the press. His wife heard about it like that.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's done all. He's been a fucking scumbag for like 20 years. He's fucking. But
plus, if you were a part of our Geeked Up Halloween trivia contest, he literally looks like Nosferatu. One of my trivia answers. He literally looks like the long-fingered vampire.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll get into maybe another Giuliani spoof in a minute here, but back to Borat though. Like I said, burying the lead with Giuliani, because if that wasn't like, if the press didn't tell you that was a huge story, and it wasn't like Trump's lawyer before the election, the main takeaway from that movie is definitely the moonblood scene. The period scene was probably the most outrageous thing I've ever seen, and I literally watched it a la our Halloween specials with my fucking like fingers through my hand and my fucking hand on the fast forward button. Just like not like I couldn't watch, knowing when they teased what was gonna happen, and I had to like look over my shoulder to see the horror show that took place.
The thing was like insane because you kind of knew what was gonna happen, and again you realize that like they're not in Borat costumes, so these dumb fucking like Southern socialites have no idea what's about to happen. Like
for sure,
it's an easy thing to con your way into, be like, oh, we're from out of town. So,
but that's one of those magic about anything. When she's fucking like so showing her bloody pussy, somebody would have jumped in and stopped it. Somebody would have like cut the music or like done something.
Dude. That's a very famous, and that's what he kind of plays off of. That's a very famous psychological test, and it happened in Queens actually like 20 years ago, where this guy kind of like took his kid outside. This is gonna sound very dark and grim, but this guy took his kid outside and like literally beat his kid to death in front of like a crowd of people. And it's one of those psychological things that you, as like a social crowd, watch something like this thinking that somebody else is obviously going to do something. Where they've ran tests like this, where like one of the tests was like literally they put one person in the room. And they kind of like put fake gas in it, and the person like freaks out and tries to tries to figure out how to get out, like covers up the vents, and then they'll put a group of like 20 people in a room, and they'll start like putting in fake gas, and everyone will just kind of sit there and be like,
interesting.
So it's a very thing where like. I mean, honestly, if you were there, I mean, obviously.
But I mean, dude, it was like a lot of young girls. Like, I think some chaperone, some adult, and like, it's just shocking to believe.
You like to think that.
Yeah, for sure. Like, and the whole point of the fucking movie is to suspend that disbelief. So I'm not trying to critique it. Like, nobody cares about the editing of fucking Borat. It's just hilarious. But I mean, like, that was easily the most outrageous thing that I fucking.
But let's also talk about the. I guess I could say this for Geeked Up News, but let's talk about the real hero of the Borat movie, and it was the babysitter that watched his daughter while he was like trying to get her plastic surgery. There's now a GoFundMe thing that's reached up to like $400,000 of people like sending that lady money. For, like, just being the best woman in the world.
But dude, she's like by far and away the most realistic character. You know, like in that movie.
Yeah, she is real. The babysitter.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, like, she's the only person that reacts the way, like, the whole reason that movie is popular is because you're watching the reactions of the rednecks dealing with Borat. That's essentially the comedy. People like from Kazakhstan don't really act like that. It's all a character. So all of the comedy is us watching dumb rednecks think that Borat's real. So he says he's gonna fucking give his daughter a cage, and they go, "Oh, geez, he had $900, whatever." Like, that is, we're laughing at it because that's not a real, like, that's an insane way to handle that situation. The only person that handles it, like 90% of the world, was the fucking babysitter. Like, that's how every person watching it would handle Borat.
Kind of to my point, the babysitter was in an individual experience, whereas like, that's a group situation where she is just like, all right, Jesus Christ, like, this girl is going to but it's surgically like mutilated
for sure.
Crazy dad. Titties will help me swim. They need his titties.
But wouldn't you think that, like, honestly, like, and I'd like to believe that literally like 90% of the people in that situation would act just like her. You know what I mean?
In that situation, I'd like to think 100% too.
But I mean, the whole rest of the movie obviously fucking leads you otherwise. So it's just like,
I think, but even then, I think the cutaway is literally the daughter walking into the plastic surgery place. Like, there's only so much you can do. You know what I mean? Like, there's a real, I like think Venn diagram or something of like how much I care about being a good person versus like how much it's going to cut into like. Well, I was going to jump on
what
Xbox
you can do about
like
it.
10, dude, and then now I'm going to take this girl and I'll keep an eye on it. I'll go here tomorrow and follow up, maybe. But you know, like, not even talking about entertainment. Let's just talk about something funny that's been going on in the real world. We're talking about things that made us laugh. How about just like in the real world? How about the fucking meeting outside the Four Seasons construction company?
Yes.
Between like the dildo shop and the fucking like. Dude, I would give, as someone who, we've talked about this before, as someone who, like, realizes they're wrong in an argument and just be like, well, fuck, I got to push forward and just, like, stick to my point, even though I know I'm wrong. What a fucking move on their part of being like, this is not a Four Seasons hotel. This is a goddamn Four Seasons.
Yeah. Fuck it. Like, is that confirmed? Like, was it a clerical mistake? I haven't even, like, followed up onto how it actually happened, but, like, were they expecting the hotel? Or was there just, like, did they just find an open space and it happened to be called the Four Seasons and they're like, I just can't wait to have to go wait on, like, I'm just over under 45-minute wait online to take a picture outside the Four Seasons landscaping company next time I'm in Philly, because
you're probably right. It probably was a like right move. Like, look, we're still with the working man and all that. We're having our conference and like a hard work. But dude, I still feel like it was called Four Seasons. There was no one on their PR team that was like, hey, maybe not Four Seasons.
Yeah. We're going to get fucking laughed out of the building with this thing. Like yeah, for sure.
I also just want to think, in a time of everyone uses GPS to get everywhere, like the days of using maps and atlases and road signs are gone. It's like where your phone's telling you to go. And then so one idiot found the Four Seasons and gave everyone the address. It was like, all right, I'll just follow the address. And it showed up there, dude.
the
Because
Four
I mean, what
Seasons
the fuck? Like, why
Landscaping
there,
Company next to a place that does dildo madness every fucking month.
The dildo sex shop.
Yeah, dude.
That,
I hope they're printing T-shirts because that's going to be an epic collector's item. But there was
dude,
really a
also,
lot
you're
of
right.
like.
As a sorry to interrupt, but as a landscaping company, like, what a move to never correct them either. Like, you guys have room for all of us? Like, yeah, dude, for sure.
Yeah,
we got room for everybody,
sure, we'll host
dude.
a presidential press conference.
And, dude,
Yeah,
like,
that
in a
sounds.
time of COVID, dude, like, it's a business that's not going anywhere. Dude.
Yeah, no, for sure.
They already. I'll start the goddamn GoFundMe.
I mean, but there has been a lot of other, and just kind of like what I was saying earlier, I just really feel that the Trump whole campaign and party is not doing themselves any favor, and I think they're losing a lot of respect, even from people that were inclined to support them throughout things like that hilarious press conference, and just a lot of the other, like, Trump literally suing Michigan to stop the count when he was behind on the vote, and that kind of, just like the way that he bumblefucked that entire election night process and the handling of it all, even like the Trump supporters that showed up in Maricopa County chanting "Stop the vote" when that was the one state that Trump needed the vote to continue on. Like, he was picking up votes in Arizona, so dude, Trump was suing like Arizona to keep on voting, even though he was suing Michigan to stop voting. But the fans in Arizona like didn't get the memo and showed up chanting like with machine guns trying to stop the vote, even though he was losing at the time. So there's just been a lot of that. It's just been hilarious to watch them totally bumblefuck their way through this.
You know what's crazy about Trump too is you got to figure he's got what, at least 50 different lawyers for like one for every state, right? And then you got to figure that's just like the ones to sue every county they got on Virginia. It's fucking wild to think about that. The other thing to do, like you're saying, is like I can't remember. It was like that was a county where they were like stop the vote, and then it like pans over to like another thing. They're like count all the votes, Biden didn't win. It's like god damn it. Like,
yeah, like
which is it, dude?
Yeah,
you know,
so I mean that whole like you just like he looked like you just right off the bat make yourself look like a total phony when you're suing one state to stop the vote and like encouraging another state to keep counting. So like a lot of that has been just Eric Trump tweeting the Minnesota. Did you see that whole thing? He like scheduled his Minnesota tweet a week late, so that came out and he's been getting fucking.
Dude, how funny is that? Dude, Eric Trump literally did in real life what I text you. I mean, me and Liam exchanged texts. And I don't know who's on the Geeked Up, but I got one of those like texts on the day of voting, and it was like, "Hey, I'm Alex from the Democratic left side." And,
yeah, you were telling me.
I'm requiring you to vote today. Can I count on your vote and remind your friends of Pennsylvania? And I was like, "Hey, man, pretty hungover. I'm just gonna vote tomorrow. I got Biden, but I'm gonna vote tomorrow." And the guy was literally like, "All right, remind your friends of Philadelphia. Also, voting ends tomorh, right?" He's like, "Oh, real people, you idiot."
Yeah, right. Do you know that you gave that guy a heart attack, though? He spent the next, like, the days between Tuesday and Saturday telling everybody, "No, dude, people really don't know. I talked to this guy that thought he could vote tomorrow. Like, people are stupid. You don't understand." It was just you trolling him.
It was the only guy that responded without a go fuck yourself or nothing. Yeah, dude, amazing. That was one of the things, for instance, as a closer look, entertained me during all this.
Yeah, for sure.
It was that guy's panic response. It's like, "Hey, dude,
yeah, for sure.
Ooh, baby, it's time to get geeked up.